Hello. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to give everybody one quick minute to join and then we'll get started with this amazing webinar with some amazing women panelists. Almost there. Thank you for joining, for everybody trickling in to this call. Just want to say a few things before we do get started with the webinar is if you have a question, please feel free to type it in the chat. Otherwise, we appreciate if you stay muted. This ensures that the panel goes, well, and we be respectful of everyone's time that, they took out of their schedules to be with us here today. But please feel free to type all your questions in the chat, any comments, anything, interact in the chat. That is what makes NowCup's webinar is so special, that we have such an engaged audience. So please feel free to swarm that chat and I'll do my best to answer those questions first through, asking them to our esteemed panelists. So I am so excited for this panelist. I think we have some amazing speakers today. We've been chit-chatting right before this. We open up the room, and so I'm really excited for you all to get to know all these wonderful ladies in the credit union space. And so before I open up, though, I do want to say a few words. First of all, happy Women's Month to everyone that identifies as a woman in this, country and just around the world. I want to give a special shout out to my mother. I know that it's not Mom's Day, but I could not go out without saying that, the person that I admire most is my mother. And I know that a lot of Latinos can sympathize with that. We would not be the strong, beautiful women we are without mothers and the sacrifices that they make. I think that immigrant mothers especially go unseen, and I want to give them all a shout out for making our lives wonderful and possible, and all the sacrifices that they have continued to make for us to have a better life here in the United States. And then I also want to read you guys a few words that I found, while I was scrolling on Instagram. And this really resonated with me, and I hope it resonates with everyone else here in the panel and part of this webinar. So it says, the greatest negotiators understand that true power lies in emotional intelligence, an arena where women have historically excelled while rarely receiving proper recognition. On this International Women's Month, we celebrate how women's intuitive grasp of human connection transform boardrooms, nations, and households alike. Their natural ability to read between spoken lines, create space for authentic conversations, and build bridges where others see only divide isn't just complementary to negotiation, it's revolutionary. So happy International Women's Month. My name is Barbara Mojica. I am the Executive Director for NowCup, and I am going to go ahead and get started and let Ali Munoz introduce herself. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me. My name is Ali Munoz. I have been with the Illinois Credit Union League for going on 3 years now. I am their marketing coordinator, and I have been in the industry for 5 years, maybe going on 6 years. I lost track. And I think going off of you, Barbara, I would say that my mother would probably be my most inspirational woman in my life, not being, a copycat, but our moms are so important. And just speaking from my mom personally, she's so strong and she's always been so independent, and she's been a great role model for me. So I'll pass it over to, let's do Melissa.
Hi, everyone. Melissa Barraza here. I have been the art director here at GISA for quite a few years, but I did start my career here in the industry, so it's going on 13 years, I know. And I work in the creative department, which is based in the marketing department, since I started. So my trajectory here has been in that area. And I would say my hair is also my mommy, because why not? I mean, she came here, she really doesn't know the language, but she has always been hardworking. And so she's always taught me like a really good work ethic and that I can be a working mom.
No,
So.
I love that. I love moms.
So pass it on to Lisa.
Well, hi, Lisa Martinez. I am a senior product designer at BECU. I've been at BECU almost 3 years. This is my first job in the credit union space, but prior to that, I worked at USAA for about 4 or 5 years. So been in the banking industry for a pretty good while. I'm located in San Antonio, Texas, but BCU is headquartered in Seattle. So I work remotely, and yeah, really excited to be here and very inspired by transgender women. Sorry, getting emotional already, but yeah, just excited to be here, and yeah, really inspired by transgender women because I know they're going through a lot right now. Thanks. Pass it to Marina.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marina Mendoza. I am the branch manager here at Newmark Credit Union. I am in Aurora, Illinois. I actually have been here with the credit union for 6 years now. It's been a journey as well. And just like everyone else too, like my mom and my grandma have been my inspiration. They're both very strong women, and as we get older, we learn a lot of what our parents have gone through, and that has definitely made such an impact in my career and right now who I am. So yeah,
I love
thank you
that.
for having us too.
Thank you, thank you. And so I want to address some of the feedback that I gotten from members at NOCUP about the word chingona. Chingona used to be a very derogatory word for us back in the day. I think if my mom heard me right now saying chingona, like she'd be like, "Ay, no, ¿quién te enseñó eso?" But I want to also read a little bit of feedback on that. And so this is just a way of NOCUP taking back and empowering women in the credit union industry to take back that word and really identify with what that really means, which is breaking barriers and leading apologetically. And I mean, all these women on this panel have done that. They're, a visual representation right now of what that really means. And I hope that after this panel, all the audience and all the people that, maybe question why we're using Chingona can really go back, have some reflection, and then feel empowered to continue to empower women to feel chingonas, because we are chingonas. And that is a word that I love to use to describe strong, beautiful, and powerful women, including my mom, even if she maybe has some hesitations around that word. So let's get started. This is a question for everyone in the audience. What was your first job in the credit union industry, and how did it shape your perspective on leadership? So I'll let Ali take it away. Ali, I see you first every time, so I might
You're
be picking on you often.
So my first job in the credit union industry was probably a year or two after I had received my degree from college. And it was at a credit union here, probably 20 minutes from my house in Rockford, Illinois, if anybody's familiar. I was a one-person marketing team, probably about 4 months into when I first started. It was a shift for sure because it was around the pandemic, so everybody was getting let go left and right. It was a really challenging time for everybody, and I think it shaped my perspective on leadership just because being a one-person team was very difficult. But at the same time, I had so much support from all of the leadership team and the CEO. It was very comforting to know that they all believed in me and just encouraged me to, believe in my work and my creativity and the opportunities that I had, honestly. So it's a great and challenging first experience, but a good one for sure.
Yes. And Melissa, I'll let you answer that question as well.
So right out of college, I worked for a newspaper, a bilingual newspaper. It was called Tú Decides, You Decide. And it was then I actually interviewed for a position here at the credit union that I worked for, and I did not get it. But 6 months later, I got a phone call and they said, we pulled your resume from the stack. Do you want to come in for an interview? And I said, of course. But I was actually pregnant at the time, and they ended up hiring me. I think I was 8 months pregnant but they did not know. So to their surprise, I started pregnant, and I have been here ever since. I think I have been lucky. I started in the marketing department. I'm now the art director, but I have watched this credit union double in size since I started. So that has been quite the experience. And we recently went through major rebrand. So I think that was like one of the career defining moments, watching that, being a part of that, being able to make those decisions. So that has been really awesome for me. So yeah,
I
I'll
love
pass it.
that, they hire you pregnant, even though they didn't know, but,
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's, I feel like oftentimes women are overlooked because they're
Yep.
pregnant, so, and I will talk about that out loud, even though people tiptoe around that topic. So that's awesome. Lisa?
Yeah, this is my first job in the credit union. As I said, I worked at USAA prior, and I really didn't know much about credit unions before I started working here. But I was just like, oh, it's finance related. It'll be similar. And since being at BCU, I've just been like exposed to this whole amazing industry. And yeah, BCU takes really good care of us, and just learning everything they do to like give back to the community has been amazing, and that's made me want to step up and make sure that I'm being a good leader and making sure that we can like get that impact out to our community like as best as possible. And that means me showing up as my best self every day.
I love that. And shout out to BCU because they're an amazing credit union and big supporters of NALCA.
Yes.
Marina?
So for me, it was actually pretty funny. I was referred by actually my loan officer to apply, and I was like, oh, me, I will never be in the financial world. I was working retail a lot, and customer service was in me. So I always thought, you have to be smart, you have to be involved in financial literacy or like have financial background to get hired. No, I got hired, and I get the call and they're like, "Oh, we want to hire you." I started as a member service representative, which is similar to a teller. And I was like shocked. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm not gonna do well. I don't know anything about procedures. I don't know anything about the financial world." I mean, I was at that time, what, 20? I was going to 21. So I was like very shocked. I was a little bit intimidated and terrified because I was like, how am I going to be successful here? Well, honestly, for me, it was listening to my peers. Even though some of them had a lot more experience, they all took me under their wing, and they were like, no, Marina, like this is why we do this. And also I want to give myself props. I've always been a why. Tell me why we do this. Tell me why. And all of that led me to actually increase my knowledge. And it's just like Lisa said, credit union is amazing. You learn so much from the community. You learn so much for about what we do, and the products we have are phenomenal. And it's a feeling that you just get when you start working here. And I had the opportunity to have great mentors. I had my previous boss, Sunny and Kristen, who were phenomenal. They were always like, hey, you did a mistake. It's okay. Let's work towards that. So that would be like, for me, a perspective I had was just accept accept when you fail, because that way, you can always get better if you're going to accept it, and just improve. And the credit union industry has definitely helped me with that. So I'm really thankful.
I love that story, Marina. It reminds me so
Yeah.
much of my own credit union story.
Yes.
I also came very young to the industry, and prior to that, I was working at a bank. And I will clearly never forget walking into the HR department for my onboarding, as a new employee, and everybody's so jolly. I mean, it's like eerie
Yeah.
jolly.
Kidding.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, what is wrong with this place? Did I just fall into like a bad workplace because everybody's too happy and I don't understand why they're too happy? And then I was like asking, how long have you been here? And they're like 30, 20 years. And I'm like, I mean, that's unheard of where I came from previously. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is this place? And then I realized it's the credit union difference, you know, that makes it all worth it, and you know, the embracing that they do. So I feel really lucky to also have fell into this industry at such a young age, because I feel like that defined like, oh my gosh, this is going to be my career, you know? So moving on to the next question. Can you share a pivotal moment or challenge in your career that shaped you to be the leader you are today? So I'll let Melissa take over and then we can popcorn.
I feel like all my stories are going to start of like when I was pregnant because
That's okay.
I
We're
do have
celebrating
four kids,
Kevin.
so maybe that's why. But a pivotal moment in my career was after I had my last set of kids, which were twins, by the way. I was actually going to come in and resign my position because I was like, now I have four children. You know, childcare is a whole thing. And so I actually went in and was like, you know, I think I'm going to resign. It's too much. And my VP then was like, absolutely not. We want to keep you on. And so they actually were really flexible to me. They let me work from home and it was kind of a flexible thing. During that time, I wanted to come back full time, but they didn't have a position. So I actually started applying at other places. I got that position and I was going to resign again, and they did not let me. And so I think at that point, I had to make a decision. Do I leave the credit union or do I go get this other job, which was also really lucrative? And I think at that moment, I decided to stay with my credit union family. It's probably the best decision I've made because I've learned so much since then. I got a promotion soon after that. So I think it was the best decision I made. But those 2 months where I was like, I don't know what to do were like awful. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think. I didn't know what to do. So yeah, but I think that was like defining. And now I'm like, sure, I'm positive I made the right decision. So even like through that COVID time, you know, they allowed us to work from home, all those things. So yeah.
I love that. And, you know, shout out to your credit union for working with you through your motherhood journey. So, you know, not often do women get that opportunity. And so shout out to them for like supporting you through that, and, you know, still giving you a promotion and watching you, you know, professionally grow in the industry. So I think that's what makes us loyal to credit unions. Once, you know, we find that good credit union, you know, that really cares about their employees. So shout out to Jessa Credit Union.
Yeah.
Lisa, I'll let you answer that next.
Yeah, I guess a pivotal moment is I think there's a point where I just like realized like when you're like navigating the workplace, like you really have to have like a strategy, you know, like there's going to be challenges, there's going to be microaggressions, like you have to know when are you going to stand up and fight for yourself, or when are you just going to like let it go, because you can't be like fighting every single thing. So I think at one point there's just like a shift in my mindset where I was like, okay, I need a strategy of how I'm going to navigate this, how I'm going to stand up for myself, but also take care of my mental health. And that's been like a huge like mind shift that I've been you know, still defining, but just knowing that you need a plan to like just make it through challenging times.
I love that.
Mm.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of challenging times, you know, coming and recently, and so we applaud you for being here, and thank you so much for sharing, you know, your story, because it's valuable to everyone here at Knock Up. I just wanted to say that out loud, Lisa. So thank you.
Yeah.
Ali?
Yeah. So I think a pivotal moment or challenge for me, going back to being that one person marketing team at the time when I was in that position, it was like kind of like a nightmare, honestly, in full transparency. It's a lot to handle as a department with a decent sized credit union. But looking back on it, it was just the biggest blessing in disguise. I got to work, I was honestly reporting directly to my CEO at the time. So it's like, you know, she's seeing everything, like kind of intimidating, but she was so supportive. I mean, I made a big old plan of this is what I want for the brand. There was no really brand established at the time too. And I wanted consistency. I wanted it sharp. I wanted, you know, brand colors. I had this whole vision, and I put together this big old binder and I gave it to her. I'm like, this is what I think. I'm being fully transparent. If you like it, great. If not, let's work on it. Let's build something consistent. And she loved it. which was great because then I could just run with it. She trusted my creativity and what I believed I could do, and it just blossomed and became this wonderful thing. So even though it was scary at first, it definitely changed my career as a whole, for sure.
I love that. Yes, those challenging times can make us better, better professionals. And so Marina, I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you. For me, a challenging. So I was actually at the ABM, assistant branch manager, for a couple months, and honestly, that was a challenge because at that time I was also learning the lending side. So you can imagine you are learning something new. You are trying, you're attempting this, and you're also managing others who do this. So that was a very big challenge to kind of remind myself, yes, you have this role because it's not just because I deserve it, but because I do well in what I
Yeah.
do. And my team respected me, and they always had my back just as much as I had theirs. And that kind of goes back to when my early career when I was a teller, right? Like I learned the skill set of always being empathetic. So if there is a mistake, an error that my team made, it's not a why did you do this, right? It's a let's work on a plan on how to fix it, but then how did we get here? So going through stuff like that myself in the credit union journey I had helps me now understand where my team is as well, or why they have challenges as well, just like I did, and it helps me helped me be more empathetic. So I'm really proud of that.
Yes, empathy, it goes a really long way,
Yes.
especially for those young professionals. And I always say that, as a first generation, first generation's college grad, first generation, has an office job. Everything seems so daunting when you walk into a credit union or a bank, as an employee. And so having people like you, Marina, to be those leaders to say like there's empathy involved in this job is really important. And for all the credit union leaders on the audience, that is why it's so important to have representation at every place in your credit union, because people like Marina can give us and that empathy that, those new employees are really seeking. So I love that story. So the next question, and I am excited for this one. What is one piece of advice you wish you had received when starting out in the industry? Marina, I'll let you take this one and then we'll circle back up.
This is a good one. I I would want to have heard like be yourself, Marina. It's okay. Because at the beginning, like you said, it's scary to be a first generation or be first in your family to have an office job, have a manager job, and you're trying to fit in, and sometimes fit in is not where you shouldn't want to fit in. You should want to be yourself, and yourself should fit in anywhere because again, we are leaders, and we're here to do what we are here to do in the best way that we want to, who we are. So a piece of advice I would say is just be yourself, and don't change for anyone. And I love that.
Yes. Oh, I love that piece of advice. That younger me would have also wanted that.
Yes.
Yes. Lisa?
Yeah, I think it would have been helpful if someone would have talked to me about like imposter syndrome. Like I feel like I didn't even hear that term until I had been like working as a professional for like I don't even know how many years, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I feel this way. So really just like understanding what that's about, why we feel that way, and how to like get past that would have been really helpful.
That's awesome. Taking notes for a Nauka webinar on imposter syndrome. And
Yes, please.
I get it constantly. So it's honestly so turbulent inside when I feel the imposter syndrome. So thank you for that advice. Melissa?
I would say two things. I would say speak up and toot your own horn.
Mm.
There's been many times, and I still struggle with this, like when to speak up, right? Or ask the questions. And it's scary when when you're in a room full of decision makers and it's just like, okay, should I say it now? Is it my turn to speak up? Is now the right time? Am I going to get judged for asking the questions? Or sometimes when I don't know what they're talking about, I'm like, can you repeat that? I've been actually better about that because I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. Can you explain it to me? And I always say maybe it's an ESL problem or I just don't understand, but I need you to repeat it. And the other thing is toot your own horn because nobody else will. I think, I've always been a hard worker. I do what I'm told. I try to do things, but if you don't say it to people, they'll never know because I think you're just expecting them to notice. And I take a cue from men sometimes because they're so good at doing it and taking credit for what other people do. Not all of them. I'm not speaking for everyone, but I have been in so many meetings and so many things where they're like, we've done X, Y, Z, da, da, da. And I'm just like looking at and I'm like, you mean I did X, Y, Z?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I got to just beat them to the punch. Or can you just use we instead of me?
Yes.
At least give us a little bit of credit. So I just say those two things. Yeah.
I love that advice, Melissa. Yes, speaking up even when it's hard,
Yeah.
Ali?
Oh my gosh, everybody has said so,
Mm.
everything has been just so true. The imposter syndrome is so, so hard. That was just a big thing for me. I think other advice that I would have given myself or anybody else, just be yourself. Be so true to yourself. Have confidence in what you do and who you are. Um, you got to back yourself up first and foremost. Use your resources. Now Cup is a wonderful resource that I personally would have wished I'd learned about earlier. There's so many opportunities out there. So just truly believe in yourself and what you do.
No, I really like that. And someone in the audience, there's this comment that's resonating with me. Saying said, yes, sometimes as Latinas, our strong personalities may come off as combative to others who do not embrace it, and we should be able to be okay with being who we truly are. And I think about like all the leadership skills that I have had to use, in this position, and I'm like how I grew up. And it's like my mom was training me to be a leader. Like, I'm sorry, I'm bold, but like, and this is like my mother was, telling me, don't depend on men, no man, do this and do that. And it's like, those are the skills, we just gotta, for me, I have to soften them a little bit, to be
Same here.
available to everyone. But we have those leadership skills, and we should trust that the things that our parents poured into are going to show up differently for leadership, but that nothing less makes us leaders, So that comment itself is resonating with me because for so long I felt like I had to simmer down who I was as a Latina woman and boldness and, sometimes loud and stuff. But now I'm like, maybe I think also it's the opportunity that I have to lead a Latino-led organization, but now I feel very empowered to say like, soy Latina, like this is who I am, And so embracing that culture part of it too, which we have, I know, shameless plug here, but we have programs coming to help you embrace your culture, and still be such an amazing leader in the credit union world. So moving on to the next question. This one is for Lisa and Ali. Have you ever been underestimated in your career, and how did you handle it? Who wants to take it first between Lisa and Ali?
I can go first.
Okay.
I think I've been underestimated a lot, not at my current place of employment, just for the record. But I think just in general, being young, or at least I think I still fall in that category of young still. Being a Latina, being a woman, just in general, I think there's a lot of times that people underestimate you for who you are and what you are. I think handling it in a strong way, but not overpowered crazy is my way to go personally. I think I like to open it up for discussion. If somebody's underestimating me or asking me questions and challenging me, I like to have that open dialogue to say, okay, if you believe a certain way, then let's have an open conversation about it and see what perspectives differ from mine and vice versa. I think it's all about a healthy conversation.
I love that. Lisa?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've definitely been underestimated, and it's hard to pinpoint why. Like, right, is it your gender? Is it my race? Is it all these things? Like, we don't ever know. But one way that I try to like move forward is to just like keep building confidence in myself, just reassuring myself that I have a strong stance in whatever I'm trying to say, make sure that I have data supporting it and reasons to, speak in detail about why I feel a certain way. So it's just all about like constantly building confidence. How can I become more confident so that I can stand firmer in my position or what I'm trying to say?
I love that. Yes. Building confidence slowly, right? It's like a little stepping stones and stuff of that sort. So I love that. I know this question is originally from Marina and Melissa, so we'll let them go first. But I actually want to ask everyone this question. What's a stereotype about women in leadership that you personally reject? So Marina, I'll let you take over and then we'll pass it over to Melissa and then to the rest.
A stereotype, and I know we have always like heard about this, and it's always out there. It's that, oh, Latina women are crazy, right? And I, I reject that. I think the word that what we are is we're passionate. We love to be, to speak up about what we care about and who we care about. And I do this a lot, even in the credit union world, where if I believe something, a denial, right? Like, I believe on this loan, I believe in this member, I will not back down. I'm very passionate about it, Um, and I think that like a lot of people have that idea that, oh, we're crazy because we do the most. But sometimes doing the most is what we have to do to, get to our outcome. And our outcomes are, for a reason. And like Ali mentioned, right? Open discussion. Talk about it. Like, let's talk about why I'm passionate about this. Let's talk about why I care so much about this person, or, in our personal lives. I would say that that's a stereotype that it's always kind of heard of. And I I don't believe in that. But I believe that we are passionate. We have a lot of passion, and it comes down to our family as well. Like my grandma, she's very passionate. When she cooks, her food is always the same. Why? And it's because she's always followed that same recipe, and she is always taught me to speak up. I'm barely 5 feet. So people are always like, oh, you're so tiny. I don't care. I will always, stand tall.
Yes.
Tall, and that's who I am. So yeah, that's what I reject. So
Oh, I love that. Yes. Being passionate is in the DNA.
it is.
Melissa?
Well, two things. I think people like women in leadership struggle with, we're too sensitive or we've always got a lot going on. Which, yeah, we do. And yes, we have a lot of feelings, but I also feel like that's what makes us so good at our jobs. For example, in marketing, I always have to empathize with our members or who's getting the correspondence. And I get emotional or sensitive because I ask the questions. And yeah, we might sound a little crazy, but we're asking the good questions. Why does it matter? But I have learned to speak slower, watch my tone, because then it come across as, then they stop listening. Once you get, your tone starts to change, they're like, oh, she's getting too sensitive about it. Well, yeah, but it's because I care. The other thing is, I'm a mom, right? And they're always like, well, she can't manage, she can't do this because she's got a lot going on. But I also think that's what makes me so good at my job. I always got a lot going on at work and at home. So I'm, it's normal for me. So when things get crazy at work, I'm like, well, that's just normal.
I love that. I love that perspective. You made me think of a study that I was recently reading, I think last night, where women are always coached on their emotions versus showing them like, how do you do RI or how do you read a budget? And it's like, I think it was like a drastic number, like 80% of women receive feedback on their emotions. versus like their leadership skills, you know, and I think that speaks volumes that, you know, women leaders are often having to tone down those emotions. But let me tell you, my boy sees me cry half of the time. I'm okay with crying. I tell him I am a sensitive soul. Okay, so this is just gonna be part of this, and I'm so happy that they're so supportive. But you will catch me crying, you know, because I feel you. I'm very sensitive too. So, Ali, I want to ask you that question, and there's questions in the audience. So I'm like, ooh, there's so much going on.
They're coming in hot,
Yes.
actually. Based on this question, somebody in the chat said our emotions are our superpower. And that's so true. I feel like a lot of the time people think that, you know, there's a stereotype that exists about women not being able because of emotions and whatever else. But going off of what Melissa said too, it's just it helps us understand and empathize with our members, with our team members too. I mean, if somebody's feeling overwhelmed or stressed, we can see that and help out our team instead of, you know, adding to it or undermining people. I think that's definitely a superpower for sure.
Yes, I love the superpower. Lisa?
Yeah, I guess along the same lines too, like, yes, there's a stereotype that women are overly emotional, but also like men are a lot of the times too. And then also there's sometimes where men are just like like they really need more emotion. So like, why is it okay that they're just like going through their days with this like, you know, hard wall and lack of emotion? Like sometimes you're like, do they even know how to cry? Like, so it is a superpower to be able to feel things deeply. And I think that, you know, it isn't fair that people that don't have that quality kind of just like get a free pass for, you know, not causing any trouble because they're not emotional.
Yes, I love the perspective you brought about the other side, you know, and how we just never even question. Oh, they're just not emotional. Oh, that's
Yeah.
Like honestly, like that opened my eyes, right? And I'm like, wait, I've never questioned why these men are not showing any emotion, but you know, we're always getting questioned because we do show emotion. So, there is a question in the chat from Oscar Cordova. Thank you for sending it for Ali. Your story about being a department of one resonated with me. So working alone, have you encountered pushback from other departments on your initiatives, and how have you handled those situations?
Oh, that's such a good question. Definitely experienced some pushback. I think it goes back to having that open conversation. Why are they pushing back? Let's meet. Let's, you know, put everything out on the table and have a discussion on what you think is going to work. I don't know, for your department, for example, let's say lending. If you want communications going out about lending and it doesn't necessarily, you know, the original marketing plan doesn't necessarily align with, you know, the goals for lending or the goals for, you know, frontline member service representatives. How can we look at everything as a whole and figure out what works together? I think it's just all about that open conversation and really talking about goals and expectations, I would say. But believe in yourself too. I mean, like, if you're an expert at what you do and you believe in your craft, stand on that also. Don't back down from it. I think there's something to be said about really standing up for yourself if you believe in your work too.
I love that advice. Yeah. Yaira Ibarra sent a question. Thank you, Yaira. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. If not, apologies. Referring to the strong Latina personalities, how would you respond to someone who may feel you are confronting them, especially to someone in a higher position than yourself? I'm gonna let Melissa answer this one because I feel like Melissa has a good answer for this one.
Well, you know, I always think about what I'm going to say before I say it, or I try to, which is why I always say, like, speak slower, because that has helped me not sound so like confrontive, like I'm yelling at them or coming at them, because like my kids are used to it, you know, but not everybody else is. And so I
Yeah.
got to remember that, and always asking questions. Why do you feel that way? Do you have a better solution? Can you share that with me? Can we come to a compromise? asking questions rather than making statements has helped me
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
I
in
love.
everything, actually. So
Does anyone else want to add to this question? No. Okay.
I would just echo off of Melissa. The questions are so important. I think it goes back to having the open dialogue and asking what works better for you, or can you help me understand your perspective and your thoughts so I can better help support you, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I do is I give people a break. I'm like, we can just revisit this conversation in
Yeah.
10 minutes when emotions are lower, and let's talk about it again. That's always makes people feel less guarded, I think, especially if the conversation is heated. One of the things, there's a comment in the chat from Marisela. Hola, Marisela. So good to see you here. I hate when people tell me I speak too quickly. As a Latina, I have always been around people that keep up the pace and have high energy. Am I speaking too quickly, or are you just not listening to me? That is such a great perspective. Does anybody want to comment on that, or should I move to the next comments?
I can
I-
comment because, sorry, Ellie.
No, you go ahead.
I talk fast. I always talk fast too, even when I'm excited about stuff, right? I'm always like, oh my God, we can do da 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 to help you with da da da, and then they're like, but I wouldn't tell you to change. I like that we've talk fast. It takes time to like Melissa said, speak slower, understand what you're saying. It does, but it can always, you can always rephrase it. When you do talk to someone and you're talking fast, just take some time to reflect. Like if it's something that you are passionate about, something maybe that you are shocked about, take time for yourself to reflect, and then maybe that reflection will help you slow things down. So I have done that. I have practiced that too, because even here, I'm always talking so fast, and then I just take some time to reflect. Allie, please.
Yeah, going off of you, I feel like it's a lot of passion too. We're passionate about what we do. We love what we do. And sometimes I feel like I could even be doing that right now, honestly. There's so many thoughts because we're so passionate and we have so many opinions on the work that we do in the industry that we work in, that it's okay. Somebody has to really, I have a habit of locking in on conversations, to really focus and understand on what the other person is trying to convey to me. So, I mean, it's just who we are. It's what we do. That's how we've grown up. And there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion.
I am still working on that because I can talk really fast. People are like, slow down, Barbara. And for folks that are not Latinos, or even if you are Latina and you're just, more soft-spoken, because there's folks that way as well. I find it reassuring to tell me, like, if I'm having a conversation with someone, like, board members, for example, they're like, oh, could you slow down on that? I don't take offense to that because I know I'm passionate, and I know I'm like just trying to word vomit on you sometimes, and so I think it's also nice to, and it's a respectful way to tell someone, oh my gosh, it's a lot of information, could you slow it down for me for just a bit,
Right.
There's Melissa, did you want to add anything, or Lisa, before I move on to the next?
Yeah, I just want to add it. I think that's a really good question. And like right off the bat, I don't have an answer, because I feel like one part of it is if you're talking fast and that's who you are, like that's you being authentic, and slowing down does have its benefits and can be helpful, but like at what point are you like compromising being authentic versus like assimilating? So I feel like it's like figuring out a way to like balance those two. So yeah, I just appreciate the question. I'm definitely going to be like pondering that for a while. It's something to think about.
I think it depends on your audience, who you're talking to. I have a coworker who's from Miami. She's actually on this call. So I know with her, she speaks faster than me. So I'm like,
Right.
Yeah.
when I'm talking to other coworkers, I'm like, okay, and I can tell by their body language. Like if they're looking at you like,
Yes, I agree.
hey.
That is true.
I love that. So for the moms in the chat, I mean in the panelists, someone said, Amanda, sent this comment/question. As a mom, I hate the phrase that you can't be a great employee and a great mom. One will always suffer. How do you get past those thoughts? I'm not a mother, so
Me
I'll
either.
let people take. Not a mother. Who's Melissa?
Yeah.
You might be the only mom.
You know, I think it's a constant struggle. I struggle with it every day. Sometimes I really kick ass as a mom, and then sometimes I really kick ass as an employee, but they're never like on the same day.
No.
So it's like, it's hard. It's a balance every single day. And I don't have an answer for that, except that most of the time I am happy doing what I am. And I am really blessed to have a job that allows me that flexibility. But it's like I say, I sometimes I do great and I feel great when I get home from work, and then it's a disaster as soon as I walk in the door, and I'm like, okay. And then sometimes it's the opposite. And I'd say, but that fulfills me. You know, I have to have that success from work to make me feel fulfilled there. And then I have to come home and feel fulfilled a different way. But I feel like it's a balance. And sometimes you're good at one thing and not good at the other, and that's okay.
I love that. And back to the balances, I'm not a mother, but I mean, I have other obligations that, I also have a family that I come home to. Grace, giving yourself grace, right? Just, I think a lot of grace in that area. So, another question from I told you ladies, I was like, this chat is going to be blowing up. To all those panelists that are leaders in their respective roles as well as mothers, how do you manage I guess this is work family life on a daily basis? And this can be, even if you're not a mother, how do you just balance, what you do on a daily basis? So, Lisa, I'll let you answer that, and then maybe we can go around the room.
Yeah, sure. I'm not a parent, but yeah, work-life balance is definitely something that's always challenging. I am very fortunate that I get to work from home, so that helps a lot too. But another thing that I know is important is to like take your PTO. I think at the NALCA conference that I attended last year, I think I heard a quote or something that says like Latinos are like less likely to take PTO than other demographics. And I myself, I have a lot of PTO stacked up. It's like I'm afraid to take it because I'm like, what if something happened? Like I need that as like a backup plan for safety. So like I myself don't take enough PTO days off. So yeah, I think that's something that needs to be addressed within our community as well.
It's that mentality of hard work, mis papás trabajaron, in the fields.
Yeah, just keep going,
No es nada compared to their hard work, and I think, yeah, but mental, it's the mental health breaks that we need from work regardless. So, Marina?
If I could add, actually with that PTO, I do this too, and I'm working on this. It's like I do take off, or I have a day off, and I'm telling myself, what are we gonna do today? Like, don't let the day go to waste. Do something, And my fiance, he tells me, he's like, Marina, it's your day off, have a day off, like do nothing. And to me, I was so shocked when he said that. I was like, do nothing. But I think it's going back to our brains are always telling ourselves, work, do this, do that. And with the whole work and personal life balance, it's a struggle. But as a manager myself who has employees who have children, I do empathize, and I recommend them that, hey, you have PTO. Let's look at our schedule. Let me give you a random Tuesday off, and maybe just take that day for yourself. I love my team, but sometimes I have to tell them, like, I think you need a mental day, and that's okay. And really, I think that all of us, even if we don't have kids, you have people around you who have kids, give them props too. I love giving out like little, we call them tokens, like, hey, you're doing great. I hear you, I see you. And words can go a long way.
That's interesting that, Lisa, you run into that, because I'm the opposite. I have PTO and I use it. I guess that's my way of balancing being a mom, because I'm like, I'm not going to give that time back with my kids. So I have to spend time with them. So when I leave, I leave and I disconnect. And that's important for me. Like I've done well trying to cross-train my team to where I leave. Like, please don't bother me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Turning all my channels off. Yeah.
Boundaries are so important with work. I think that's the way I also master my PTO too, because I'm just like, yeah, no me molesten, I'm
Yeah.
out. Like, this is my time for me time. Ali?
I feel so heard that I'm not the only one that hoards their PTO. I aspire to be like the both of you because growing up, my dad, he was going to work. He was never taking PTO. There was never time for vacations because he always needed to provide. That's just the way he grew up. It is what it is. Obviously, we're in different times now. And, me growing up, I was always like, wow, why didn't my dad ever take PTO? Why couldn't he do it? Obviously, now I understand. But now I'm in the same shoes because now I don't take any of my PTO and sometimes I'm tired and I'm like, okay, well, the PTO's sitting there, but at the same time, there's always so much for me to do that I don't stick to, my own mental health and taking a day to say, okay, hey, time to disconnect. It'll be there on Monday. The work's not going anywhere. Just take your time to breathe. So it's nice to know that everybody else or a lot of people do feel the same way.
I just want to remind, so one time I witnessed, we had a older gentleman pass away at our credit union. He had been there quite some time and was like a leader in our commercial department, bringing in the loans. He passed away from a heart attack. And so I'm in the marketing department and I get called, and I think it's like 2 days after. Like, can you come remove his name from the wall because there's somebody else that's going to occupy his office? And I'm like,
Wow.
what? Is this for reals? So just mind you, like you can do all the hard work for your company and you can do all this and that, but you will get replaced.
Mm,
Yeah, so
mhm.
true.
It is.
So I took that and I was like, yeah, okay.
Mm.
This is how we're gonna roll. Okay.
Mhm.
So lesson learned, I was just like, yeah. I mean, I can do all the hard work and yes, but at the same time, it's a business. They got to move on.
Yes. Oh, I love that perspective. And I
Mhm.
hope that, it resonates with everyone. And if you are hoarding PTO, maybe this is your call to like, hey, take some 2 to 3 days off right now, especially with the beautiful spring coming.
You won't see me next week then.
Right. I'm putting in PTO
doing
after this call.
You can blame Nauka for that, Marina. Okay, so there's some comments on the chat. I just want to read this one because I thought it was funny because I'm like, same girl, I am identifying. Sometimes I get mad at my husband because he likes to relax too much and I like to be cleaning or doing something. So I feel you, Marina. And then someone else said, even if I had a day of PTO, I just can't do nothing. If I have a day off, you'll find me cleaning this house. Andrea Torres, thank you for sending the question and comments. Sent the question in. So we might not get through all our questions, but I love that the audience is so engaged. How do you deal with advocating for yourself when it comes to races? I love these questions. I think that that's where my imposter syndrome creeps in, and also being raised to be a hard worker as an exception and not something to be rewarded. Pastor Andrea, thank you for asking that question. We'll let Lisa answer that first, and then we'll go around the room. I promise I won't pick first next.
That's okay. That's okay. It's a great question. I'm probably not the best person to answer it. I don't do a good job of advocating for myself. And I'm also like go through this weird, very privileged challenge, but working in tech, I have a good salary. It's more than I ever thought somebody with me would end up with. So I always feel like I'm already getting more than I could have asked for. So advocating for even more, even though everyone else is doing it, it's something that I struggle with doing. I'm just like, I'm just happy to have a stable job,
I love that. Does anyone else want to take this one?
I can. I actually, this is actually something I went through. So I went from hourly to salary, and that was a big like it was a big deal because like we're all talking about being hardworking. I clock in overtime. And hourly you get to see that, and salary you don't. So to me, I really had to stand up and the advice I would give everyone is get facts, right? I printed out my statements, I calculated everything, and then I compared that with what they were raising me, and I said, no, I need more, because look at all the overtime I put in, all the hard work I do. And Melissa said this in the beginning, you know, to your own horn. Even if you took courses, training, a certificate, a degree, point it out, right? Point that out and say, if I was able to do this, imagine what else I can do. I've brought this, I've done this, you know, Allie's example with her binder, right? Like, have that ready, and be confident in your statement, and don't back out. You know, if you are saying I need a raise because of X, Y, and Z, stick to it. And I have faith that credit unions leaders will, you know, listen and acknowledge that. So yeah, I would say definitely, you know, take that advice of bringing in facts and standing up for yourself. I did it and it works. And again, it's just tooting your own horn because you deserve it.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I've done that in my performance reviews, because as leaders, when I give them, like, you can't remember everything, right? And so
Mhm.
I will sit down at my desk and I will write a list of all the things that I've done that have gone like above and beyond, that I consider that I've contributed above and beyond. And I will write those out and I will provide stats and I will provide facts. So when your team leader is giving you and, you know, grading you on whatever, you have to remind them of what you've done.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because you can't expect them to remember, although you think that they should. Because yeah, sometimes I'm like, how could you not remember I did that?
Mhm.
So you have to remind them, toot your own horn.
Yes, I love
Yes.
that. Ali?
Yeah, I think, you know, based on what everybody else has said, I think it's really 50-50. I think, you know, advocating for yourself, you know, having, you know, things written down of things that you've accomplished throughout the year, but from a leadership position as well, I think there's something to be said about, you know, recognizing your employees for the hard work that they've done and that they've supported and accomplished for credit union growth. I think it's, you know, being in a leadership position, I think it's also important to, you know, appreciate them and give credit where it's due too.
I love that. And yes, call out to leaders. Like, I feel that we should advocate for our own selves, but leaders should also know what's fair and right, you know, so that that person is not placed in an uncomfortable position. So I always try to, you know, as a new leader, I'm like, okay, like, what is the fair? And my husband has this saying that the math does never lie. Like, he's like, math is the most factual thing you can go by. And so the way I advocated for myself recently is I just presented them an equation. I said, based on X, Y, Z, this is what I deserve to have a raise. And I put it on paper on my review, and, you know, it was granted. So I was like, hey, the equation worked, you know, and I did research on how much are my counterparts making compared to what I'm making in the state that I'm making based on the asset size, etc. You know, so you really do, if you present those facts, I don't think they would say no, especially if you're hardworking. And then I want to address another part of this question that says being raised to be a hard worker as an expectation and not something to be rewarded. I think we all have trauma with that. And I don't want to say trauma because I love that my parents taught me how to be a hard worker, but like, we have that so ingrained in us that we often see positions like, oh, we should just be grateful. Like, this is way better than my ancestors ever did, you know? So like, let me just hard work and like zone out and work hard and just be grateful for this position. But it is time for us to undo that for the next generation, so that the next generation doesn't have to feel what we feel right now. Because I know while we're talking through this conversation of, you know, how do I advocate to get a better race? We're all uncomfortable. I have flutters right now in my heart, you know, and it's like, we should be the ones advocating so that the next generation doesn't have these flutters and they don't have to have these uncomfy conversations with their leaders going forward. So, it is part of who we are to be hard workers, but you need to advocate for yourself to be rewarded for that hard work. Especially, I think for me, is doing it in honor of my parents because they never got rewarded for their hard work, you know? So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there because I'm like, oh, I'm so passionate about that topic. Let me go through like the comments because I'm like lost on where we are. Um, Somebody said, how do you handle imposter syndrome? This could be a webinar for, a topic for another webinar. And I agree, but like quickly, if two of you want to share, how do you handle imposter syndrome? Raise
I
your
think it's
Go ahead.
Go.
I think it's a battle. It's so hard for me personally to just be myself. I've gotten in the habit when I was in the office. I work from home now, but when I was in the office, I was putting on my music. I was, singing along, obviously not having a full-blown concert, but I'm just surrounding myself with things of my culture that make me happy. I'm putting on reggaeton, I'm putting on, norteñas, whatever to, make me feel like I'm truly myself. That's just, I still struggle with that. Full transparency. Like it's still hard to just not, put on a different face and use my customer service voice and act like somebody that I'm truly not. It's so hard. So I feel like it's never going to be perfect, but I'm I'm trying, truly.
I know. Lisa.
One thing that I've done is I have a coworker at my job that's in a similar role, and they're also from a very marginalized identity, and they also struggle with imposter syndrome. And we just have like chats every now and then where we just like hype each other up, and we're just like, "Oh my God, what you just shared in that last call was so awesome!" And just being super reassuring that they are, so amazing in their job, and hearing it back and knowing that it's coming from like truth. That's been really, really helpful for me.
Yes, I love that, Lisa. And for the ally folks in the call, a great way to reassure people from marginalized communities, because I think we all struggle with imposter syndrome, but especially people of color or people from marginalized communities. It's a great way to, like, if you're, because I feel like sometimes I can catch on when people are struggling, and like just reassuring them, giving them a little nudge of like positive reinforcement, really goes a really long way. And so back to your point, Lisa, of having that cheerleader team, there is a lot of questions, so let me move on. So often I feel like I'm so lucky to be in the room as a brown girl. Is this something any of you have experienced? And if so, how did you take steps to shed that feeling? Melissa?
Yeah, I
You
felt
ponder
that
on
a
this.
lot. I feel that a lot, actually. I even went to school in a predominantly white community, so it was always interesting. I always got the, oh, but you don't have an accent, or, you don't this, and you're not your typical brown girl. I'm like, what does that mean? But I think I struggle with that every day, and reminding myself of, I am good enough. I have the same education as them. I have the same experience. I might be better at that.
And I speak two languages.
Yeah, right? Constantly in my head. It's always going back and forth. And I think it's just reminding yourself, and again, speaking up, reminding that you have a voice. But for me, it's still a constant struggle. And it's still terrifying when I am the only brown girl in the room. I mean, I've gone to conferences being the only in marketing conferences where I'm like, huh, I don't see anybody with another Latino last name here.
Mhm.
Interesting. So it's just been interesting, and just know that you bring your own set of perspective. Like I feel like having my unique set of skills makes me better at what I do. Because I'm always thinking of that member, and like I do have a voice, and I am speaking for those who don't. So yeah, just keeping that in mind. But it is still a struggle for me. But I think with the more experience you have, and you just get better as time goes on.
Lisa, do you want to add?
Yeah, I've definitely been the only female or the only Latina. As I said, I work in tech. I'm also a queer Latina, and I think like whenever I look up the demographics, I think like Latinas only make up like 2% of the tech industry, and LGBT people make up about 2 to 4% of the tech industry. So those combined, I probably represent like less than 1% of the tech industry. So just knowing that, I just kind of have to go in to every situation knowing that, yeah, this is it. I'm, leading the pathway for others.
Does anyone else have anything else to add to this question?
I
I-
I I do, Barbara. So like for me, it has been also like I'm the only young woman in the room. And that's a big deal because I get, a little bit intimidated, but at the same time, I'm like, don't let it get to you. For me, I work hard in getting someone that also can represent like I do into where I'm at. So if I attended a conference, and I've done this in the past where, I attended a conference and I'm, passionate about it, I leave someone there as well, because that way we keep that cycle going. Um, we have heard of like, um, if you were to be gone tomorrow, who would fulfill your position, who would be put in your place. And I take that very seriously, because I'm like, I want someone who is the same as not the same, but better, actually, the better than me, because I want someone who can represent what I'm doing, the beliefs in what I'm doing. And that's why I work really hard with my team to always be like, we're all very, very smart. We're all equal. Let's work all towards the same goal. And God forbid, something happens to me, I want somebody in my team to be able to do what I'm doing. So, you know, like like I said, keep the cycle going, So I always tell people, advice is have a buddy, surround yourself with people that represent who you are as well, or who listen to who you are, and that makes a difference. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Ali?
Yeah, going off of what Marina said, we had served actually together on the Young Professionals
Yes.
Advisory Committee here in Illinois a couple years ago. And I distinctly remember when we had, guided the crashers for our annual convention here in Illinois. By the end of it, one year, it was a couple years ago, we had all of the Latinos that had attended as crashers. We just all brought them in like our little group, because you could tell there was some sort of uncomfy vibes, because you don't see people that you necessarily identify with. And by the end, they were just completely and totally happy about their whole experience. And it's intimidating for us to be the only people, but I think it's also important to then, like, how that feels. Let's use that and help guide the people that are coming in, or the people that are new to the experience. I think that helps a lot, just trying to take those steps to make everyone else feel welcome now that you've gone through it. So,
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so important. That actually reminded me of a quick story that I have when I was a crasher, at ripe age of 23, and there was so many white people at this conference. I was like literally searching the room, like, where do I go? I felt so intimidated. And my board chair, who, I met back then, we were in a lunch table, and I'm just, grabbing my lunch, and she's like, ¿Hablas español? And I was like, yes, I do. Who are you? Like, can we connect, And so that now I use that a lot, because I'm like, if someone look, and I don't want people to assume, that people are Latinos just because they're brown, but I do say like, oh, yo hablo español, like, where are you from? And that really, I feel like warms people up. So that, just to that point, Ali, that being inclusive, Um, we have more questions. So, but I really want to ask you guys this one that we pre-made. What does being a credit union chingona mean to you? Ali, I'll let you take that away since I'm seeing you first.
yeah, being a credit union Chingona, so many things come to my mind. I think there's a lot to it. I think it's just being a Latina badass, like, just, having pride and confidence about who you are as a person, believing in yourself, being proud of your roots, and just doing what you can to advance yourself in this industry as well. I think that there are so many opportunities. NALCUP is a wonderful resource for all of us that from time to time may feel uncomfy or feel like you don't belong. Use NALCUP as a resource too. I feel like when I attended my first webinar, such as this with NALCUP, I left feeling so refreshed, feeling so inspired, feeling included, that there are actually people like me that are, going through the same struggles, or, having the same questions. It's finding a sense of belonging too. And like all the Chingonas that are here today, thank you guys for being here. And I hope you guys are able to use NOCUP as a resource, because it's wonderful.
Mm. You're gonna make me cry. Look at I'm like, oh, that was so powerful. Melissa, before
Let's see, what does a credit union chingona mean to me? It means being a leader, not within only our department, but the industry. I think I've been really lucky to experience the things I have with my credit union. And I think that being a person who people rely on as a resource, that makes me feel amazing when people come to me within the credit union and ask for help or ask my opinion. To me, that's very humbling. And like, I'm here to help, because when I first started in the industry, people were not very nice to me. And I always told myself, like, I will never be that person. I will never not help anybody or give them information or not make them feel welcome. So
I love that. Lisa?
Yeah, I think it's about like being a Chingona is like having some sense of power, some sense of privilege, and making sure that you're doing the most with that. Like, are you helping bring other people up along the way, using whatever privileges, whatever education, whatever resources, whatever connections you have to help other people.
Mm-hmm. Mariana?
Right, being a credit union chingona to me is everyone, hit the mark on this one. It's just feeling so powerful. And just actually like taking in consideration everyone in here, the support we have, right? Sometimes I feel very alone, or very, like in my office, like focused on stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like who can I turn to? And just being aware of, oh my God, the support we have. It's like I'm so powerful in a good way, right? Melissa said it, like powerful, use it for the good, right? We are all heroes in our own way, and that just makes me super, super happy. And like people say, chingona is it's like, oh, negative connotation, but it's not. It's really powerful. It's really cool to see everyone's story and hear and feel very supportive. I love it.
Thank you,
It's
Mariana.
positive. Thank you.
And I know no one's asking me, what do I feel a credit union chingona is? But let me tell y'all my take. It's embracing this industry. It's becoming part of the industry. It's knowing the industry and advocating for this industry from a Latina perspective, from advocating for my community and saying, like, the credit union industry is the perfect place to welcome our immigrant community, the Latino community, and ensuring that credit unions have enough resources to serve our community and do it well. For me, that's what I feel empowers me to be a credit union chingona, and showing up authentically, right? Like, I feel when I crashed GAC, back in 23, I always describe it, and I'm a very visual person, because if you guys can see, I love art. I feel like my heart, they did this, they cracked it open, and then I became who I am today. So I encourage everyone on this call to be that sort of credit union chingona, to know the facts about credit union, to know the history of credit unions, and know that credit unions are really here to serve immigrant communities from the places that we come from, and people that we so much love and admire, like our parents and mothers, as we've talked. So that for me is being a credit union chingona. And we do have one more question for you. Well, there's one in the chat, and then I do have one more for you guys before we let everyone go. Being a Latina leader, have any of you experienced stereotypes or being treated differently for being Latina, and how have you managed the situation? Melissa, I'll let you take that one, and then we'll move on to the next one.
I have a moment that stands out for me. I was in a meeting, and I can't remember what the meeting was about, but one of our executives was in there. And as we were walking out of the room, I don't know, I think sometime during the meeting, I had told them where I came from or where I was from. And we walked out, and he straight up looked at me and said, "So you're an anchor baby?" And I said, "Oh, I didn't even know what that meant, actually." And so I go back to my computer and I Google anchor baby, and I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I am that. The next time I see him and I go, oh, I actually, know what that means now. And yeah, I am an anchor baby. And this is why I am proud of it, where I came from, what my story is. And here I am. He actually was super responsive, was super interested, kind of changed his opinion. Years later, I see him at an event with my dad. I had the opportunity to bring my dad because it was an event we were sponsoring. And he goes up to my dad and tells him the amazing work I had been doing in the credit union, that he was so like amazed about our story, and kind of went from there. But I was like, interesting. I could have been offended. I could have took it the wrong way. I could have, was it right? No. Did it happen? Yes. But I tried to change his perspective. And he was a leader. And actually, that was a leader that offered me the job to stay at the credit union when I wanted to leave. So I kind of built a relationship with him from there.
Love that advice. The next question for all of you, and we'll end it with this because I think it's a good ending question. What advice do you have for other younger women looking to step into leadership roles in the credit union industry? And I will specifically say, what advice do you have for younger Latina women? And you can take your time, but Ali, I want you to take this one first, and then we'll go around the room.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I think just to believe in yourself, take advantage of the opportunities that are presented to you, and don't be scared to do it. I think, a regret when I was younger, I tried to pursue, leadership opportunities, but I don't think that I was as aggressive with it as I should have been. I think there's something to be said about not being scared. Apply for the role that you think you're not qualified for, because odds are you will get it. Believing in yourself, having that confidence, fake it till you make it. I feel like from experience, you gain that confidence to really go for things. Just believe in yourself.
Marina?
For me, it's get out of your comfort zone. It's hard. Trust me. Like a webinar like this is getting out of my comfort zone, right? But it feels so rewarding. It feels so well. And it just makes you like very confident that if you took a step forward on something that you've never tried before, then do the same thing next time, keep doing that. And that's how you become a leader. A leader is someone, who I feel like I thought a leader was somebody who had all the answers to everything and they're perfect, but I'm not perfect and I don't have all the answers to everything, but I am, a leader because I find those answers with my members, with my team. And again, it's because I'm very confident. I'm confident that we'll get there one way or another. We'll get there surely, but for sure. And again, just get out of your comfort zone. It's so fun. And going to conferences with Ali, it's been a journey, but every single step you make, trust me, it will shape you into a leader. And do it. Just do it, Nike.
Lisa?
Yeah, I think my advice would be to just take advantage of all the resources out there. There's NALCUP. If your credit union, has employee resources groups, like try to attend as many calls, make as many connections as possible. Those are the people that are going to be really crucial in helping you in answering any questions that you have, helping you get to that next level, giving you advice, pushing you, helping you, get out of those comfort zones a little bit. And yeah, there's a lot of resources out there. Find a mentor. If there's people in leadership positions, just schedule time to talk to them, pick their brain. What's your day like? What are the challenges that you've gone through? What are some good resources you have for someone like me? And just find out what their day's like. Just ask lots of questions.
Melissa?
Yeah, I would agree with Lisa. One thing that has helped me is I'm always learning new things. I'm not afraid to learn a new system. I knew, asking questions about budgets, asking questions about how campaign works, asking those questions and learning. Somebody's even going to be going, hey, teach me how to do that. I've been wanting to learn. And I think it's helped me. Like when I interviewed for new positions and things, I'm like, oh, I know how to do a little bit of that. I know how to do a little bit of that. I know how to run shrimp crate. I know how to do website. I know how to do like all the things because I've taken the time to learn.
Mhm.
So constantly learning, I would
Yes.
say.
Well, it has come to an end. Thank you so much to the audience for all your engagement. We're so happy that you guys are so engaged. I told the panelists before the call, like the audience was gonna have a lot of questions, and you guys did not let us down once again. Thank you for joining NELCUP. Thank you for being a member of NELCUP. And another shameless plug, we will be releasing some Credit Union Chingonas swag, so stay on the lookout on the website. It's coming for you guys because we're going to take this word and we're going to honor it, and we're all Chingonas in the credit union industry. Happy International Women's Month. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you want the recording, it will be available shortly, so happy to help. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day. If the panelists can just stay back for a few minutes to debrief, but again, thank you so much to the audience for coming to this webinar today. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you.